In today's episode, we speak with Veenu Keller, an expert in child behavior. What are the two things every child needs, wants, and desires? And as parents, how do we manage this? And what's the biggest mistake we make in rearing our children?
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performance Podcast
with your host, Thor Conklin.
Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategies, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use to get more done and execute better than 99.99% of the population. If you know what to do, but you struggle with getting it all done, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. In today's episode, we have Veenu Keller with us. For over 17 years, she has worked with at-risk teens, children with disabilities, and parents of children with behavioral issues, drawing on her own experiences to coach people to aspire to want more and be more, as well as realize there's always a choice. She has a degree in psychology. She's an author. Why is she so good in this area? When growing up, Veenu struggled to believe in herself and made choices that carried serious consequences, including inflicting self-harm through cutting and making a plan to commit suicide. Veenu is a best-selling author, including her contribution to Bully Proof, Unleash the Hero Inside Your Kid, as well as her #1 best-selling book, Numb. Please welcome Veenu.
Thank you so much, Thor. It's such an honor to be here with you all today.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to dive into this because I think the area that you concentrate on is so important for so many parents, so many kids, and even kids that did not grow up with real difficult struggles. I think they all struggle in this area somewhat. So give us a little background of what you're doing with the parents and the kids.
So, Thor, I grew up with a single mom, and, growing up in a home where there's only one parent who had to work and had to go to school to educate herself to give us the best life that she knew how to give us, it was a great opportunity for me to realize, what do I want for my future? What kind of parent do I want to be? I found myself following in my parents' footsteps, being a divorced mom. I was a single mom for over 10 years, raising 2 young boys by myself. Taking all of that, my past and what I've accomplished now, I have realized the obstacles I had to go through to raise these 2 boys to be the men they are today. And I realized that every one of us, whether we have a single parent or whether we have both parents, that we all have children that have different type of behavior patterns. So with these behavior patterns, I started to study the psychology of why people do what they do. Why do some kids in Walmart cry for a candy while other kids are great with shopping with their parents? And I was on a conquest through all these years of trying to figure that out. Being a parent of 6 kids, 4 of my own, and starting to work with kids back 17 years ago, I have put all of these strategies together, and I have figured out that kids want to be heard and parents want to be heard. So what would have to happen for that to mesh together to have a unison of a family?
So I remember with my own child, my own son, I had such a difficult time and I just couldn't figure out how to get through to him. And you were like, don't you see it? I'm like, no, I don't see it. And you're like, he wants to be heard. And it was amazing. Sometimes it's so difficult as a parent to see it in your own child. And you need someone sometimes just from the outside to go, here it is. And it made such a difference. So thank you.
Going back to that, working with all these families for 17 years, when I go into their home and I work with them, just like, when you and I had that chat years ago, it seems so simple and yet no one does it. And it's just, we don't know what we don't know. And it's having somebody with the knowledge, the experience, the psychology background to put it all together for you so you can actually incorporate it.
Well, it's funny because I saw this cry for attention and I figured, okay, the best way to deal with this is not give them attention. And that was like the worst strategy ever.
Right. Because kids will do things for 2 reasons. They either want attention or they want power. So one of the things that I help families understand in my family coaching is, what is their behavior saying? What are they saying to you? Are they saying that I'm not getting attention and the only way to get attention is to act out? Or are they acting out because you've taken all the control away from them and they feel powerless?
So how do you tell the difference between the two?
You look at what they're doing.
Well,
So
give us
for
an
instance,
example.
Okay, great. So for example, say you had a 15-year-old that is constantly giving you problems getting up for school. You know, how many of us out there have that teenager that you wake them up and they're like, yeah, I'm up. And you have this attitude because you have to go 5 times to get them up, and now it's like 15 minutes and school's starting. You've had the school call you and they're saying no more tardiness. Because I know there's parents out there, because I know I've had to deal with that.
Do you have like a video cam to my place?
So what happens is I had to stop and think, what's really going on? And so what I started to do is I tested out my own theory. Does my son want attention? Is that why I'm going back there 5 different times? Or does he want the power to make his own choices? So what I did is I gave him choices. I went to him and I said, Connor, let me ask you something. You have no problem getting up to go surfing. You have no problem to get up to go hunting. What is stopping you from getting up to go to school? And he said to me that he didn't like school. So I asked a better question. What would have to happen for you to like school? And he said, for me to like my teachers. And I said, okay, so if that isn't a possibility, what if we looked even further into what your future says? Do you think you'd be passing your classes the way you are now if, say, you didn't complete 8th grade or 7th grade? He's like, no. I said, so would you agree that everything that you do in your life is a stepping stone to the next part of your future? He's like, yeah. I said, so what would have to happen for you to take that next step in your future? He's like, go to school on time. I said, perfect. So what could I do to support you in getting that goal accomplished? And he said, well, if you would make breakfast for me every morning. Perfect. I can do that. I said, so I will get up 15 minutes before you. I will get your breakfast ready, and you will be up for school. He said, yes. Done. It was about him having the power of that choice.
Interesting. You know, it's funny. I found recently, my son is now 18, and I struggle with the same things with him. I mean, it's identical. And then, and maybe because of the age, I started treating him like an adult, not like a child. And I said, here's what I expect of you. What do you expect of me? And then we actually formed an agreement. This is what I'm going to do. This is my word. This is my standard. And this is what you can count on. But I also want to know what I can count on from you. And once I did that, I noticed a real big shift. Now, I don't know if this works with smaller children, but it certainly has been a good strategy for me now at this age.
Well, you know, it's a reward system. So let me ask you, Thor, if you had a 9-to-5 job and you knew that you were going to go to work at 9 and you were going to get off at 5, but nobody was going to pay you, there was no rewards for it, would you go to work?
Probably not.
Okay, perfect. So why would a 2-year-old feel like they had to listen to you and not jump on the couch when there was nothing for their great behavior when they just sat on the couch? So it's a reward system. If you listen to me, then what do you want? Well, I want rewards. Great, so I'll give you rewards. So for my children, because I have 4-year-old twins, by the way, and if you want to talk about different obstacles, every day is an obstacle. Every day is a new learning possibility for me. So what I do, people say it's negotiating. I think it's developing kids to understand that there's choices in life. And guess what? I definitely have kids that have behaviors. Don't get me wrong, because that's normal growth where they're at. At the same time, I don't have that child that feels powerless because I give them choices. You have a choice. You can sit on the couch and watch your TV, or you can continue to jump on my couch and the TV is going off and mommy's leaving the room. Well, obviously they're jumping on the couch because they want my attention, because they already know the rules. So when you asked earlier, how do you know if it's power or attention? This is a great example of attention. Because what would happen is, generally, there's plenty of parents out there, I'm sure, that have these rules set up that you don't jump on the couch. And when the kid does, what do? Stop jumping on the couch. What did mommy tell you? but we don't do anything to stop it.
Yeah. You train them that, it takes 3 or 4 times, or maybe not even that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So what's
it drives
the strategy?
me nuts when I see that. I just want to jump in there and go, don't tell them that you're going to do something if you don't do it.
Exactly. Follow through. So what's a great strategy? Here's a strategy for you guys. So we're going to take jumping on the couch. So my kid's jumping on the couch, and I don't give them any attention for it. I don't say anything. I sit them on the couch, and I reward them. Good sitting. Now you can watch your movie. You know what? If you could sit here for a few more minutes, it will be snack time. Guess what my kids do? I've given them the attention they were seeking. It was in a positive way, and now they know that they're going to get something for it. Just like when we go to work, we know we're going to get something for it. Notice how I said I didn't say anything. To give a child anywhere, I don't care what age they are, if you look at a child, when they're doing something, how many of us parents give the kid the stink eye? And they're like, oh, God, here it comes. Or we yell at them. That is attention. So in order to not give them attention in a negative way, but to reinforce the behavior that we want, we have to know what they're asking for.
What's some of the worst parenting advice you took, not knowing that it was bad advice at the time?
One of the things that I see, if they're crying, give them what they want. Obviously, they know what they want or they wouldn't be crying. So with my 2 sons, one's 22, the one's almost 18, if they cried and they wanted that lollipop in Walmart, I was so embarrassed, I gave them the lollipop.
So you rewarded the bad behavior.
I did. And, the other thing that irks me is when I'm in Walmart and if my kid's crying, either the cashier or the person behind me is like, do they want this candy bar? And I feel like saying, well, if they wanted it and they deserved it, I get it. Please stay out of it.
What's funny, it just kind of reminds me, too, I don't think this behavior stops at age 6 or 7. I think this behavior continues on into adulthood.
Right. And why does it continue? Because we enable it. A behavior will not continue if it is not rewarded.
How long does that behavior normally take to go away?
I'm going to tell you, I have worked with families that have issues with getting their kids to sleep in their own room. And with working with me and following through with each step I tell them, within 24 hours, so that's like tonight, and then by the time we get to tomorrow night, that kid's sleeping in their room by themselves. So you can reshape a behavior, but I'm going to tell you, it has to be worth it. If you go to, and I keep going back to the job because people can relate to that. If you go to a job from 9 to 5 and you only make $3, you're getting rewarded, but is it worth it?
It's almost like training a dog. They say that it's not really training the dog, you're training the owner. Right. Do you find that also with the children?
Absolutely. What I have realized, I have this program, Thor, called the In-Home Turnaround. This is where I come into your home for 4 days. I come and I live with you. I get to know each and every person's model of the world. And yes, even 1-year-olds. 1-year-olds, believe it or not, have their own model of the world. They know if they can cry and get what they want, and they know how to communicate to get what they want. So it's just different model of the world. And then on the second day, I start watching how you interact with your children. What do you enable? What do you have expectations of your kids? I'm going to tell you the number one expectations kids have is that their parents won't follow through. And let me tell you something. That's exactly right. Parents do not follow through. If you want success with your children, I would love for you to challenge you for the next 24 hours, follow through with what you say, and see if your child's behavior changes within that 24 hours.
So let's talk about the parents. What strategy can the parents use? How do they do this 24-hour challenge?
Okay, so if you have that child that you know that temper tantrums for what they want, that has challenges where you actually have that power struggle, ask yourself, what's the power struggle about? If you have a teenager, let's go with teenagers for now, a 15-year-old that wants to go out with their friends to the movies, and you say their curfew is 10 o'clock, but the movie doesn't get out till 10:30. You've already told them their curfew is 10 o'clock. Stick with it. If the movie goes till 10:30, then they need to make another choice for another movie. Or they need to find something else they need to do, but the curfew is 10 o'clock. That's follow through. What our kids expect, Thor, is that we will not follow through, that we'll say, okay, well, if it's 10:30, that's fine.
Although I've already said your curfew is 10 o'clock, I'll let it go this time. Now, keep in mind, if you have a child that listens to you, sometimes it's okay to reward them for their good behavior. You know what, son? Because you've been so great following your curfew all week, if you would like to go to the movies till 10:30, I'm okay with that. Please make sure you're home by 11. What are you doing? You're rewarding the positive behavior. So guess what he's going to do next time? He's going to consistently be on time for curfew because he knows he'll get rewarded for it.
And tell us a little bit about the different ages and the different techniques and the tools that you can use. Are there certain cutoffs, 0 to 5, 5 to 10?
Well, I'm going to tell you, between birth to 3, your brain does the most growing. I believe it's 85 to 90% of your brain is developed. And so between the ages of birth to 3, that is where they pick up their values. That's where they pick up what they can do and what they can't do. And so working birth to 3, my strategy for that is using a lot of hand over hand. So let's go with something simple. How many of us out there have those toddlers that they just take their toys and dump them out of the bin? So I'm sure you can go back to when your 2 kids were that young. They would just take toys and dump them out of the bin and then take off.
I still do that.
And they take off and they expect you to clean them up. Why? Because when you say, okay, it's time to clean up, and we know the whole clean up song, they do one toy and then they take off again. A strategy that you can use is not saying anything. You go behind them, you take their hand, and honestly, you're pretty much picking up the toys. However, they have that muscle movement of doing it with you, and you are praising them. Thank you for listening to me. Great, clean up. I'm so proud of you. Look at you. You're a big boy now. You can clean up on your own. And then slowly take your hand away and watch what that toddler does. And as they're doing it, you're praising them more.
Reinforce the good behavior.
Absolutely. Because what do they want? They want attention. Do you think they wanted power just dumping out those toys and running away? No, they wanted your attention. Because what do you normally do? Go clean up. Go clean up. And as you pointed out before, Thor, was we reinforce, hey, you don't have to listen to me to the 3rd or 4th time, and then I'm going to really make you listen.
Yeah. And I think I've gotten better in this area. I'm dating a woman that has a younger child, and it was always a problem with her putting him down to bed. And I said, well, you're making bed the last thing of the day. It's like, who wants to rush to get to bed? So I said, let's mix this up a little bit. Instead of right after dinner, it is, bath and then bedtime. What about after dinner? It's bath and then you have some time to play with Legos or watch some TV. But if you kind of dilly-dally with food or with the bath, there's not going to be any time for that. And boy, did that behavior change in a heartbeat.
Right. And when you go to older kids, at 9, 10 years old, doing hand over hand kind of doesn't work. So you have to ask yourself again about the behavior. What is their behavior telling me? And you always want the quote unquote punishment to match the crime. So for instance, if your son slams the door and hits his sister, why are you going to take away TV? What does TV have to do with any of that?
Elaborate on that.
So instead of taking away their TV that has nothing to do with them hitting their sister or slamming the door, maybe they want to write sentences that I will love my sister, or I will not hit my sister. I will respect my sister. Maybe slamming the door, you might want to have them write sentences. Maybe you might want to take a dishcloth and have them wipe down the door. Something related to that so they can learn respect, because isn't it really about respect?
I like that.
So the consequences match the crime per se.
Not just taking away something that's important to them.
Exactly. So one of the things that I did, my almost 18-year-old, I pay for his phone, which I'm sure a lot of us do. And that's my leverage over him. If you do not answer my call within 5 minutes of me calling you, or you not respond to my text, then I turn off the phone service.
Yep.
And he's like, you're taking my phone away? I said, absolutely. I pay for your phone because I want to be able to communicate. You have the honor and privilege of using your phone for other things such as music and texting other friends and social media. But understand that I am still in charge of that phone. And let's not forget why I gave you that phone.
So the crime definitely fits the consequences, if that makes sense.
It does. That concludes part 1 of our interview with Veenu Keller. Stay tuned later this week for part 2. Thank you for listening. If you haven't already done so, please head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Also, please share this with family, friends, coworkers, or anyone that could benefit from this information. To make it very easy to share these episodes, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode that you want to share, and you can post it to your timeline. You just might be helping one of your friends on Facebook by sharing it on your page. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. The email is info@thorconklin. While at the website, please sign up for our weekly newsletter with additional tricks, tips, tools, and psychology on how to be a peak performer. Remember, these episodes are anywhere between 6 and 35 minutes and are meant to be consumed during dot time doing other things. Until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.